Hey, this is Sanjit Singh with Bolt. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend, Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
I'm to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. It's Scott Ferguson, and I have a unique interview with my good friend Sanjit here. He's a fractional worker, meaning I never even knew this existed within the kind of the C-suite individuals, CEOs, COOs, CFOs, and on down the line, that there's availability for them to work actually part-time for companies. And for companies that really can't afford a person at a full-time level at a C-suite, there's actually opportunities for people to be hired and get their feet back in the water. Maybe they've been off a while or had kids or something like that. It's amazing. I'm really just going to kind of shut up and get into this interview with Sanj because he's such a motivated individual, a super successful individual. I'm so blessed to know him. And if you're kind of a C-suite person or even just working your way up the ladder and looking for options, you might want to take some notes here. I know I had 3 pages of notes, a little bit off the cuff of the people that I generally interview. So, but I definitely wanted to get him on because he says fractional. I had no idea what that meant, and I'm just blown away by it. So without further ado, here's my really good friend, Sanjit Singh. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I have my good friend from over on the left coast up in the beautiful green, rainy state of Washington. Sanj Singh is a fractional sales leader and fractional COO, which can't wait to dig into this because I'm flying blind here and I didn't even want him to explain it to me off the mic, but I can't wait to dig into it and how he can really help you like he helps other companies accelerate revenue and build a repeatable, scalable sales model. Previously, Sanj was a serial founder. He has deep expertise in sales, marketing, strategy, and business development. He co-founded LeadCrunch in my favorite city on planet Earth, San Diego, which was a San Diego-based AI marketing startup, which raised $18 million, built the company to a $24 million run rate with 60 employees before he exited the fund at Series B. He mentors at Techstars Seattle, the Founder Institute Seattle, and the Founder Institute Silicon Valley. Wow, he's very well established. And when he's not working, he enjoys spending time with his friends, playing guitar, cycling, paddleboarding, reading, and yoga. One of his passions is talking to people about their recovery from emotional challenges. On his podcast, don't go there yet, but his podcast, Heal, Grow, Thrive. Sanj, thank you so much for coming on. Please introduce yourself to Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
I'm going to say purple.
Purple.
I don't know what there's something about it, something exotic, kind of fun,
Yeah.
creative. That's what I like about purple.
It's a mix between, obviously, it's a mix between red and blue. So you probably have the cool side, but I bet you when you want to be, you can be fired up, right?
Yeah.
And it's also royal and regal, right? Because across no matter what religion, purple was the jam, man. So that's awesome.
That's right.
Man. That's awesome. So let's get kind of the roots of stuff, man. You're well established. You've helped a lot of people make lives better for themselves and in turn monetarily richer as well. But let's get to the kind of the roots, man, where we started.
Sure.
And we'll move up from there, brother.
Where did I start? Yeah, so I started my career in sales, moved up quickly to sales leadership. So for the first 12 years of my career, I was in sales leadership for large companies, working at scale, and then went to business school while I was working. And then after that, I launched my first business in 2007.
Wow.
And then since then, I've been running businesses ever since.
Awesome. What was the first business? Can you share that?
First business, sure. I was a reseller for DHL and about 20 LTL freight companies.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun. I still have ownership in that business, but I don't spend a lot of time in it. Yeah.
It's funny. My first business ever, I started when I was in the Navy, and I still have an ownership in that. And that was 1992. So yeah, that's fantastic. So let's dig into the fractional part of things. Because when I see fractional, I go, whoa, it's math and stuff like that. But can you give us kind of a rundown and a synopsis on what the fractional sales leader and fractional CEO, kind of how that runs?
Yeah. Actually, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with math.
Awesome.
It's a weird word that just means part-time. It's a fancy word for saying part-time. And so, but it's actually a very fast growing segment of the market, which is part-time executive or senior talent. And basically, it's a lot of people who recently were laid off in the last couple of years and realized that this was available to them, that they could actually work part-time for companies, have several clients, not necessarily have to report into one boss and have that boss determine the course of their future, and they could be their own boss, be a business for themselves.
Wow.
And so this is like part-time, very experienced CFOs, chief revenue officers, which is what I am, where I run sales and marketing. You have chief human resources officers. So, I mean, just about everything you could think of at a senior level is now available in the talent pool. So, if you are a business owner, you're thinking about starting a business and you can't afford a full time CFO or CRO like me, then you can hire us part time and fit into your budget. But
That's
you're also
amazing.
getting someone really experienced. Yeah.
So, do people ever hire like this is awesome, dude. I did not even know this stuff existed. This is because I'm thinking at
Yeah.
first when you start talking, how's that different than a consultant? But I get what you're saying. They actually have a job placement within the
Yeah,
organization.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Dude, this
Yeah,
is awesome, Sanj.
as opposed to a consultant, exactly. Yeah.
Bro, did you come up with this or did you see it other places or like
Oh, I
what?
wish I did. I wish I did. I would have patented it.
Dude, this
But
is
no, no, no. I
amazing.
actually my first introduction to fractional executives was as a operator. I was running that company you mentioned earlier, LeadCrunch,
Yeah.
and we couldn't afford a full-time CFO. And when I came across fractional CFOs, I said, "Oh my gosh, we totally need this position." We hired him immediately. Then I hired a fractional CMO, chief marketing officer, and
Mhm.
then another CMO later, fractional. And then eventually I hired a full-time in all those positions. But so I sort of bought the idea as as a customer of the idea.
Sure.
And then when I left LeadCrunch, I actually didn't think right away to become a fractional CRO. I was actually working on another software startup that I decided eventually not to start. But at that time, I started getting calls from a lot of my startup friends who were founders that were struggling with sales. And then I just said, well, I guess I'll just be a fractional CRO. I didn't know that people did that. And as far as I know, they didn't.
Right, right.
Uh, and then I just started doing it as a CRO fractional. And then um, but of course, now it's just exploded in the last year or two, but I've been doing it for about 4 years.
Brother, like so much to unpack here. This is
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Again, because I might have heard of it, but I never really got it. Right. So
Right.
so how about
Hmm.
synergy? Like if you're bringing in a fractional
Yeah.
CEO, or is there ever a CEO, or is it usually whoever's under this chief executive officer that you're kind
Believe
of
it or
hiring?
not, they do have fractional CEOs as well,
Wow.
and fractional
That makes
COO. I
sense.
do that as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. How about the synergy when it's built? Are they people vetted out to make sure the synergy is right for the company? And is there a trial basis? And how about like competition? If I was a CEO
Hmm.
of one real estate group and then go into another real estate group at the same time to make double the pay, like how's
Yeah.
everything papered up? And I know that's a ton of questions, Sanjay. I'm just so blown
Yeah.
away,
Yeah. Yeah.
dude.
Yeah. 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 No, these are great questions. So you mentioned the competition aspect. I certainly don't work for competitors at the same time, and I think
Sure.
that would be a breach of integrity. Although some may, but I don't know. I've never run into anybody who does that.
Okay.
And then you said, what's the synergy like? Companies ought to talk, have a few conversations to make sure there's a fit.
Hmm.
But the beauty of it is if it's not a good fit, you move on to somebody else. But the
Sure.
nature of it is temporary anyway. Usually you're just stopgapping. Yeah, like if you were a CEO, you're stopgapping till there's another CEO. In
Gotcha.
my case, I may not actually be stopgapping. I may be doing a project that's got a beginning and an end,
Got it.
or I had a client, a rather large client, because most of the time my sweet spot's 1 to 25 million in revenue, but I had a $70 million client, and they needed me for about a year and a half
Right.
to help one of their divisions that was flat, and now they're growing at 24 to 30% a year over year. So they're just
Gotcha.
killing it. So the nature of the engagement will be a little bit different depending on where you're coming in. Some people have fractional CFOs for
Sure.
a really long time. Mine's going to be tends to be shorter than that, and then a fractional CEO usually is even shorter still.
Okay. So you are one of these fractional COOs, CFOs yourself, correct?
I'm a fractionals,
Okay.
or I can be a fractionals chief revenue officer, CRO.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So like how do people find out about the fractional stuff? Like
Mhm.
where do people find that? Is it on like on Indeed or like where's stuff like that found?
Yeah, so I'm part of an organization called Fraction L. And so if somebody's looking for something other than CRO, well, or even if they are looking for CRO, they can go to Fraction L, they have hundreds of fractional talent, and they're really well vetted, and you can hire from someone like that. And that would be a good place to start.
Okay, it's called Fraction L. It's like an
Yeah,
organization where you can go and start.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
are you doing then right now to getting out there and doing it? Because are you like kind of like in the middle of one of your fractions right now?
I have several clients now,
Okay.
but of course I'm always looking. I'm always looking for clients, networking, part of groups like Fraction L where I get work. I'm often brought in by fractional CFOs and chief marketing officers because they're deeply embedded in the organization, and they'll realize when there's a need for someone like me. And
Hmm.
so then they'll give me a call and say, hey, they're struggling with sales, and that's all I really know. So maybe you could
Sure.
talk to them, and I'm always happy to do that. Have a half-hour conversation, dig into their business with them, help them figure stuff out.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need some advice, and I send them on their way with some free advice. And if it makes sense for me to actually engage, then always happy to do that.
Gotcha. So, like with Time to Shine today, we're whatever 2009 is to
Mhm.
now, and we actually, I'm blessed to be able to grow it through real estate holdings, Time to Shine today, real estate holdings, coaching. I have my podcast, like different things. And I actually had to bring in kind of a CEO that's pretty much kind of full time. He kind of runs
Mm.
things, and I'm just kind of the operator, even though I kind of do run things, right? But like one of the caveats that we had is if we had to get rid of George, which I never will, if you're
Mhm.
listening, George, you're never going anywhere. But like if I had like if this is a fractional time, like is there like kind of set contract times if you were to take something like that? And what
Mhm.
if you didn't perform? Like right now, if I had to get rid of my
Mm.
team, I would have to vote. It's like how sticky can it get, or how
Yes.
sticky have you
Yeah. Yeah.
seen it? I'm sorry to ask all these questions, man, because this is so
No,
new to
these
me,
are
and there's people
these
out
are
there that
very, very reasonable questions. I
okay,
think, yeah. So I don't know how other people structure their agreements. I go month to month. And the reason I go month to month is because my position is I want you to be getting value. And if you're not getting value, or if you feel like you've gotten all the value you need, pull the plug. It's time for me to move on because that's the nature of my work. So
sure,
I don't want my customers to have that overhang, or to be worried about, oh, I think we got all the value we need. We got 3 months left on this, and man, that's a waste of money. No, it's
yeah,
month to month, as long as you
okay.
need, and then I go.
Are
That's
most
how
of
I
them
work. Yeah.
month to month, Sanj?
I think so. I mean, the
Okay.
people I've run into are, but
Okay.
some may do contracts, but I don't believe in that.
Gotcha. So if
Yeah.
I'm out kind of at a networking event and I'm
Mhm.
pressing flesh and meeting people and stuff, what kind of keywords might I be listening for with the people I'm networking with that would make them a good like fractional introduction? Like,
Yeah.
to
So fractional in general, right?
yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say if they're struggling with an area of their business that they're not an expert in,
Hmm.
and yeah, they feel overwhelmed by it. Like for me, that's probably finance. Like if every
Yeah.
time I've run a company, I'm like, I can go only so far in finance, and then I feel like I need help. Then I
Hmm.
start to get overwhelmed pretty quickly. I would say that some people feel that way with sales. They're like, oh, I don't know why we can't
Yeah.
sell. And they're spending a lot of time, but they're not really getting anywhere. I would say those are the things to listen for. That's
Okay.
when you need a fractional executive in a particular area.
Gotcha. I mean, I
Yeah.
do that in a lower sense with call centers in a sense. Like there's certain things that I
Yeah.
need to have done, but this is like big ticket people. So for yourself, let's get to Sanj.
Yeah.
So what do you feel that your strengths are?
My strengths are, after doing this a long time, I'm a little bit unusual as a fractional CRO in that I've actually run companies and run tech startups. Not every fractional has necessarily done that. They've
Yeah.
certainly run their area, but they haven't necessarily run an entire business unless they're a fractional CEO or
Yeah.
COO. And so my strength is I can figure out what is causing their lack of sales or what we
Right.
can do about it. And sometimes that's not necessarily just working in the sales team.
Okay.
Sometimes it's working with marketing, sometimes it's working with product, sometimes it's working with the website. And so I tend to think of things very holistically. And
Yeah.
I'm very methodically going through their funnel saying, where's the bottleneck? I think
Love
of it
that.
sort of like as an operations person, like where's the bottleneck?
Yeah.
Where are sales getting stuck? Where's the friction? That's kind of my
Dude.
superpower is finding those points and
Bro,
then solving them. Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like you're not a believer in balance, you're more of a believer in harmony. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
again, the reason why I say that is from a coaching
Good way to say
standpoint,
it.
when I'm
Yeah.
coaching, blessed to coach CEOs and whatnot, professional athletes, it's like balance is zero. But 10
Hmm.
pounds here, 10 pounds here. But like I love jazz, right? So if
Hmm.
I listen to
Me
a
too.
jazz
Yeah.
band, okay,
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
the drums might be your God or spiritual, the guitar might be your personal, the family might be the horns, and on through community work,
Yeah.
money, and living fine.
Yeah.
They're all different instruments, right? But if one of them's out of tune, it just doesn't sound right. So
Yeah. Totally.
fractionally, you could grab somebody, have them replace that guitar player or whatnot in
Hmm.
this world. Like they bring you as a CRO, right? And
Hmm.
then place you in there, and then you're off playing some harmony again, correct?
Hmm.
Love
That's
it.
right.
Love it. That's so easy for me to like grasp on and stuff what
Yeah.
you're doing right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you then what do you feel like you need to work on? Which one of your lack of better term of weakness that you're looking to level up consistently?
I would say, uh, believe it or not, maybe this may sound odd, but vulnerability. Vulnerability has been a challenge for me most of my life, and
Oh,
I
that's
think it,
so
and
good.
I think it's really important. I think it's important, even though it's very important in your personal life, but I
Sure.
I also think it's important in business. A different level of
Yeah.
vulnerability, but vulnerability all the same. And that is something that I've been working on.
That's transparent, man. Thank you for sharing. You didn't
Yeah.
have to do that. So that means a lot that you're willing to do that. And companies, if they're hearing that and they want to bring you on as a CRO or something, they love to hear that. I know I'd like to hear it because I struggle with it too, brother, because we're men.
Mm,
You just
yeah.
sometimes we're like,
Totally.
you know what I'm saying? Awesome.
Yeah.
So let me
Yeah.
ask you something, man. Like, have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back in that DeLorean with Marty McFly, man. Let's go back to 22, the double deuce, the 22-year-old Sanj. What kind of knowledge nuggets, that's what we call him here at Time to Shine Day,
Yeah.
what kind of knowledge nuggets might you drop on the 22-year-old Sanj to make
Sure.
him level up, not change anything, because your journey's been pretty awesome, right? But to maybe help him shorten a learning curve or blast through maybe just a little bit quicker through life.
Sure. The first thing that comes to my mind when you say that is I don't know if he could grok most of what I would tell him. I don't know if he would totally understand, but I think I'd probably spend half the time trying to convince him that he was smarter than he thinks he is and that he's more capable than he thinks he is and to get out of his head about that. And
Love
then
it, man.
and then the other things I would tell him or what I just shared with you, I'd probably explain what vulnerability is because I don't think he understood it,
Yeah.
why it's important. I think I would explain to him that it's okay to not always be moving at the speed of light, to not always be doing something, to learn to slow down a little bit
Yeah.
and think through things more carefully.
Love that.
I think those are the first things that come to mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the Ferris Bueller's. I'm a big John Hughes guy, right? I'm
Yeah.
52
Yeah.
years old, so it's like the Ferris Bueller's. If you don't stop and look around, life just kind of
Yeah.
passes you by, right? That's awesome.
Totally.
That's vulnerable. Tell
Yeah.
me that. Thank you again. So, how does Sanj want his dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, life date and death date. Hopefully, it's way down the line. But how does Sanj
Yeah.
want to be remembered, brother?
As somebody who eventually learned to acknowledge his mistakes,
Yeah,
be vulnerable, help people in and out of business.
yeah. Do you have a
Yeah.
book?
Not yet. No.
You got to write one, man. I'm telling you, like you're perfect for that. What do you
Thank
think
you.
then people might misunderstand the most about Sanj?
Misunderstand. Gosh, it depends on where they're sitting. But I would say,
Dude, that's
yeah.
awesome. The best answers
Uh,
I've ever gotten from that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah. Maybe in business, with I get to focusing on sales and helping helping people do what they hired me to do.
Yeah.
They may not understand how much I love people, how much I care about people. But I think they do start to understand that when I work with them,
Yeah.
because I really do want to know about them, their background, what's important to them, where they want to be in life. I want to understand whatever they want to share about their personal life.
Sure.
I love to be able to relate to them on those levels, find things in common.
Yeah.
So they may not understand that at first, but I think eventually they do.
Love it. Love. What do you think then some of these business challenges that you're seeing the most going in as a CRO? What are you seeing the most going in like in as a fractional
Mm,
CRO? Like what are the biggest
yeah,
challenges that you're noticing consistently or more than most?
sure. Well, let's talk about super early stage startups because I do a lot of mentoring there.
Yeah.
The biggest issues they have is because I noticed one of the questions you like asking is about the aha moment or ideas or that click. I think early stage founders get really in love with their idea about what the business should be,
Mhm.
and they don't think enough about the customer, how the customer's workflow is, what the customer actually needs, and not just what they need, but the way they want to consume that solution, things like that. They just
Yeah.
don't give enough thought to. Where's the budget going to come from? Who's actually going to pay for it in the company? And those are all the things that early stage startup founders that I would work with don't give enough thought to.
Thank you for saying that because it's
Yeah.
I've run into that with some people even as
Mm,
I coach.
yeah.
And like I really love people. I did it for this podcast. I built an avatar out of
Yeah.
who's listening to the show. And I kind of briefly
Mhm.
explained it to you, but it was a 4-page
Yeah.
avatar, right? That
Yeah.
I had,
Yeah.
right? The whole guy's day waking up and what he's going through and stuff like that. That's beautiful.
That's smart. Very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. So then what would Sanj's definition of a life well lived be?
I think a life well lived, my definition of that has changed. I would say now it is how many people have you helped?
Mhm. I love that, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And that's the truth. It's funny. It's like I have not funny, but like I have clients that are just rutted. They're like, oh my gosh. And some of them are because
Yeah.
we're in kind of weird times right now. But
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
just the first thing I say is like, go provide how much value have you provided today? You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It's
Yeah.
like you just
Agreed.
said that. How many people have you
Yeah.
helped? You'll be remembered by that. Like the more you mentor, the more you immortal you become, right? It's like people
Mm,
remember you the more you give. And that's beautiful that you said. I'm not saying go mentor everybody and get paid nothing, but I just learned that when
sure.
I would get in ruts, I was a real estate broker for 27 years. Even I am now here in Palm Beach. I still have a team
Hmm.
that I run here. And I just figured there'd be days like, oh man. But then I'm like, all right, dude, who can I help? Can I push a shopping cart? The corral. What I'm saying is just stuff like that, and things
Hmm.
start to
Hmm.
happen. And I love that. Time to shine today, podcast varsity squad. We are back, and Sanj, like when I get out there to Washington, hopefully you'll be around. Maybe we can break some bread and talk about some of these
Would love
questions,
it.
you
Would
know,
love it.
a little
Yeah.
bit deeper. But today, you got 5 seconds with no explanations, and I promise you they can all be answered that way. You ready to level up?
I'm ready to do it.
Let's go. Sanj, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
To be more vulnerable and to learn when to let go of things.
Ooh, let go. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
To go into situations and not assume anything.
Beautiful. These are nuggets, man. It's awesome. So you see me coming walking down the street, or you see me at a networking event or somewhere, and like, man, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. What book might you hand me that's really enlightened you?
I would say Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less by Greg McEwen.
McEwen. Yep.
Um,
Yeah. Go ahead,
you said
please.
no. You said explanation or no
You can,
on this
please.
one?
I'll
Okay.
break the rule.
I think it's a seminal and beautifully crafted work that's kind of centered around the idea of that only a small percentage of like the ideas, the offers, the people that we encounter are truly worth our time.
Right.
And he sort of tells you how to focus your time on these things and
Yeah.
then skillfully, surgically cut everything else out.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's great,
Yeah.
McHugh. Love that. So, your most commonly used emoji, if any, when you text.
Probably the laughing emoji.
Gotcha. Nicknames growing up?
Nicknames growing up. No, I didn't really have any
It's
nicknames.
all good, man. You have a unique name anyways, so it works. Any hidden talent and or superpower that you have that nobody knows about until now?
Hidden talent. I think I've become a much better interviewer of people than I thought, and
Oh,
that's why I came up with my own podcast.
love it. Love it. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Chess, checkers, or Monopoly? Probably chess.
Gotcha. I can see you playing chess.
Yeah.
Headline for your life.
Headline for my life. Some bad stuff happening. It all worked out.
Beautiful. Love that. Any superstitions that you buy into at all?
Superstitions. I don't know if I would call them superstitions. I'm one of those crazy people who believes that everything happens for a reason.
Me
There's a
too.
there's a
Same.
plan. If
Same.
something
I don't
sucks,
have
if
any, man.
something, yeah, if something sucks, I try to say, What's good about this thing that
There you
sucks? Or
go.
how can I get better from it? Or
Yeah.
what's the invitation
You
here?
found that silver lining. That's another superpower you got there,
Yeah,
brother. I love it.
yeah.
Go to ice cream flavor.
Go-to ice cream flavor would be, oh man, it's hard to beat chocolate. Just
All
really
right.
hard. Yeah.
So there's a sandwich called the Sanj. Build that sandwich for me. What's on it?
The Sanj has, I would say mustard, mayo, turkey.
There you
I'm gonna put Arby's sauce on it. I'm gonna put
go.
horsey sauce
Horsey,
on it.
baby.
Yeah, you got to go for the horsey
Bro.
and ham,
Okay.
and forget all that other garbage. Just a meat sandwich.
There you go. Throw a little man candy, a little bacon on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah,
Love it. Favorite
exactly.
charity or organization you like to give your time and or money to?
Yeah, there's an organization I got involved with recently called the Alternative to Violence Project, which helps prisoners reduce their violent and criminal impulses before they're released.
You'll love it, dude. Donnie, put that in the show notes, please. Thank you. Beautiful. And last question, and you can elaborate on this one, but what's the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
The best what? Sorry,
Decade of music. 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
80s or 90s. I would say 70s.
70s? Awesome, man. I
Yeah,
love I
yeah, a
love
lot
the
of good stuff.
70s.
Yeah,
Yeah, again, because I was born in 72, I kind of grew up in the 80s, graduated in 1990, right, from high school.
yeah,
But like the 70s, whenever I'm like my team sends me a podcast to build show notes and stuff like that, I love to have the 70s because it's like stories that I'm saying,
exactly.
whether it's
Totally. Yeah. Concept
Croce or
albums. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. I love it. So how can we find you, Sanj?
Bolt, BOLTT.io.
Bolt. Tell us about Bolt.
Bolt's just the company I work out of that I created for my fractional services.
Love it. That's really cool because when I checked it out, again, I didn't know anything really about fractionals and stuff like that.
Mm,
Now I know that it exists, and this helps me out with coaching clients. Thank you.
mm.
I mean, like seriously, thank you. So,
Good. I'm glad. Yeah.
Sanj, if you don't mind, leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can kind of take with us, internalize, and take
Yeah.
action on.
Yeah. I would say if you're running a business and you're trying to grow sales, look at it the way I would, which is where's the bottleneck? And go through the whole sales process painstakingly slow till you find where the bottleneck is. And then ask yourself, what resources or people can I engage to solve this particular part of the bottleneck? And as a CEO or someone that starts a business, do you dedicate a certain percentage of your time every single day or week to actually grow your business? And if not, I think you should start to do that.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And this is such a masterclass for me, squad, out here with my good friend Sanj. He reminded us that he tells us a fractional is kind of a fancy word for part-time. It's senior talent. You might have been recently laid off or kind of let go for a company, but there's options for you to dip your feet back into the workforce. Right. And really get in there and embrace a company and embrace a passion. There's business owners out there that you might not be able to afford a full-time, full perks yet. There are options out there. You might want to go to the Fractional organization and really check that out. That's something Sanj poured out to us. And there's a lot of value you can find in the fractionals that's there. And there's a lot of the talent pool is probably pretty big because some people are coming out of burnout and they just want to kind of get back in there. And my friend Sanj is so passionate about helping people. And he really laid out to us that vulnerability is key for him, and it's can be key for everybody out there. And that when you're in sales and whatnot, that it might be slowing down if you don't bring Sanj in, but bring somebody in or yourself to really find out where that bottleneck is. Find what people is in the talent that you're going to bring in there, and really help yourself out. And if you're younger, or even if you're older and you're kind of stuck, it really work to convince yourself that you're capable, that you're able. And if you are stuck, like my good friend Leah Woodford would say, get your asking gear. Ask. There's people out there willing to answer your questions for you. Well, he's going to be remembered as somebody that has helped a lot of people increase their bottom line. I can see it right now that Sanj is just a legend in this field, that he cares about people and he doesn't care just about the bottom line. He understands that both are critical, the people and the bottom line. And Sanj, thank you so much for coming on. You've earned your varsity squad letter here at Time to Shine today. You level up your health. You level up your wealth, man. I absolutely love your guts, brother. And I can't wait to continue collaboration with you somewhere down the line.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
You bet, man.
It's great. Really enjoyed
Have a
it.
great day.
All right. Cheers. Bye.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today podcast. Proudly brought to you by Sutter and Nugent Real Estate Excellence, who can be reached at 561-249-7266 and online at www.sutterandnugent.com. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on Time to Shine Today, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also there, you will see our recommended resources. We hope that you will support our show by supporting them. If you like what you've been listening to, it'd be great if you could just give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's our time to shine.